Good day. This week's question of the week comes to me from one of my viewers, and it's also a video I've been, a friend of mine, James in England, did. And basically it is asking the question, would I consider it a red flag if a school was demoting their students in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu? Meaning like maybe they promoted you to purple belt, and then for some reason that student wasn't performing at the level the instructor thought they should have been performing at, and then they do this some kind of ceremony to demote them in front of the school. Or they come to you from another school, and maybe they're a blue belt, you know, they was promoted wherever they was at before, and they come to you, and then you're like, you know, I expect my blue belts to have better skills than what this person has, and then they demote them. Would I consider that a red flag? Absolutely. Would I do that to a student? Absolutely not. And my thing is this, like, I'm in the business of teaching Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and of building people to make them stronger, not to demoralize people or embarrass them. And I've seen these ceremonies or these demotions on YouTube or Twitter, or they show up in my feed, or somebody will send me something and they're like, what do you think about this? I think it's horrible. Like, I don't understand the logic behind it. I've heard the arguments behind it, but I like, if there's a decision, let's say I promote somebody to purple belt, and then I realize after watching them roll or train for a little while, I realized, you know, I promoted them too soon. They weren't quite ready. That's my mistake. And I need to fix that. And to fix that, I will work with them. I'll like, hey, let's work on this side control escape. Let's try these techniques. You know, need to work on your closed guard more. I'm not going to demote them. And then somebody else was like, well, you know, what if they, you know, you have visitors and they see that, you know, this person is, you know, substandard, you know, it's an embarrassment to the school or the association. You know what? I can live with that. You know, if somebody comes in and they roll with one of my students who's not performing up to maybe the level we think they should be at, and they decide, yeah, I'm going to train someplace else. It's like, hey, good on you. Go train someplace else. I would rather they do that than me demote the student. I'm not going to do it. And I mean, I've had cases where, like, years ago, I had a good, really great student come in, and he was a purple belt, and he hadn't trained for 12 years. He got injured, but, you know, like, he had shown me photos of, like, you know, he had trained with Helio Gracie, he had trained with Hickson Gracie. Not that that was my deciding point, but he trained in the 90s, and then he took a serious injury and some life events happened, and he didn't come back to jiu-jitsu for 12 years. And he's like, you know, professor, I want to train here. I'll start back over as a white belt. I'm like, no. We're going to build off your purple belt. Like, yeah, it's going to take you longer as a purple belt to reach brown belt than maybe, you know, the other purple belts at the school right now. But that doesn't matter. I'm like, I'm going to build off what you have, and we're going to get you up there. And I think, pretty sure I promoted him to brown belt after a couple years, because he picked up really quick, and it was almost like riding a bike. You know, it's like, yeah, he was rusty at first, but like he never forgot how to do it. And then he moved away, and I know in the past year or two, he was promoted to black belt, which is great. But in my mind, had I demoralized him and demoted him to white belt, he may have given up jiu-jitsu. You know, now he's a black belt out there, you know, doing great things. You know, but I could have demoralized him and maybe made him decide, you know, after 12 years, I'm just not coming back to jiu-jitsu to start all over. And so I'm glad I wasn't the one to make him quit. And that's been a benefit to the entire Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community. Now, had somebody come in and roll with him after he had recently come back after a 12-year layoff as a purple belt, and, you know, tapped him out and been like, oh, you know, I don't want to train here because, these purple belts are no good that he's got. Okay, fine. If that's your decision point, fine. Do you. But I'm in the business of building people up. Not giving them a false sense of identity. Like, no, I'm going to build your skills up. I'm going to evaluate you, and I'm going to work with you where you're at. Not where I would like you to be at. Like I would like everybody that I promote to blue belt to be at the same level that Rickson Gracie was when he promoted to blue belt. And I'd like them to be just as effective. But is that realistic? Because when I got promoted to blue belt, I'm quite sure I was not as good as Rickson Gracie was when he got promoted to blue belt. But we were both. I got my blue belt. So work with people where they're at, not under some ideal. And I don't care what the rest of the world thinks about, these guys aren't performing at a certain level. You should demote them. No, I ain't gonna demote them. If somebody has to be embarrassed, I'll take the embarrassment. That my instruction, and I have belts that aren't up to, somebody's level out there, somebody's expectations out there. Okay, but I'm trying to picture like some person who does their 9-to-5 job after a hard day's work. They're like, I really don't want to work out, but I'm gonna go jiu-jitsu class anyways. And they come into jiu-jitsu class, and I reward them by demoting them. Like, what is that? I'm not doing that. So, if my student is not performing at the belt level they need to perform at, I'm not going to demote them. I'm going to build them up. And I stand behind every student that I have ever promoted. I will build them up from where they are. And if I think like, they're a little weak in this area, they should be better, I'm going to focus on that with them and work with them to get them there, not embarrass them and demote them. And somebody said, well, what about if they, there's some moral issues, or, they're causing problems, with bad behavior, wouldn't that be reason for demotion? No. For instance, I had a guy, he was arrested for domestic violence, and then we soon found out that he had a long pattern of domestic violence. And the irony was, I had like 2 days before he got arrested, promoted him to purple belt. I did not demote him. I kicked him out of the school, but I didn't take my promotion back. It's like, no, you got your promotion, but you'll never train with me again or come into my school again. And from time to time, I've had students over the years, whether they have bad attitudes or been revealed to have criminal behavior, or I find out, they're sexual predators, they're harassing my females, and it's like, well, I'm not going to demote you for that. I'm just going to kick you out of school for that. Like, no, you just don't fit in here, so bye. So that's my thoughts on demoting students. I don't do it. I don't think we should do it. What you do at your school, you do you. But at my school, I'm never going to demote anybody. And I've had people come in from other schools, and they're like, I'll start back over. I'm like, no, you received a promotion from a legitimate school. I'm going to honor that promotion, and I'm going to work with you from where you're at, not demote you, embarrass you, drive you, maybe even drive you to quit jiu-jitsu. No, that's not what I do. So that's my answer to this week's question week. Any comments, insights, feel free to make them below in the comments section, and we'll all grow and learn. And it's okay if you disagree with me. Some people are like, respectfully, they'll make a comment, respectfully, Professor, I disagree with you. You don't have to say all that. Just say, I disagree with you, and state your case, and we'll all learn and grow. So don't feel bad if you don't agree with everything I say, because sometimes in hindsight, I look at things that I've said 10 years ago and be like, man, I don't agree with that no more. Because we all grow and we learn. All right, till next week. Ciao.